Welcome to Embrace the Dark and the Light, a podcast about healing, identity, purpose, and being human. I'm your host, Kelly Street, a therapist, writer, and lifelong seeker. I believe that healing isn't linear. Darkness isn't something to fear, and the journey inward is the most important one we'll ever take. Each episode, I explore the full spectrum of what it means to live a conscious, intentional life, from the messy and tender to the sacred and expansive, through a mix of solo episodes and honest conversations with fellow creators, healers, and thinkers. We'll walk together through the shadow and the light, trusting that both have wisdom to offer. You're not alone in this. Welcome to Embrace the Dark and the Light. Before the conversation today begins and memories, thoughts, and feelings are shared, I want you to take a moment in remembrance of yourself. The versions of you that you've been, the decades that you have lived, the relationships that you've had, and the places you've been. What would you tell these versions of you? What would you say to them? Take a moment and tell yourself those things now. Whether it's you are enough or simply I love you. This is a message that you needed to hear at some point. And you get to give yourself that message in the past, all the way through to the present today. So take a deep breath in and out, landing here now with love and honor for the versions of you that live inside of you. So the conversation today begins with thinking about the versions of ourselves. And I wanted to talk about the versions of ourselves because today I'm joined by someone who is familiar with reinventing herself. And reinventing yourself after loss, after hardship. My guest today is Celina. I met Celina by doing her own show called The Essence of the Moon. It's a YouTube channel and a community that are focused on tarot, oracle decks, witchcraft, spirituality, folklore, and personal growth. And Celina does this and so much more. I can't wait for you all to get to meet her today. I loved having my conversation with her. And so welcome, Celina. I'm so glad to be talking with you today.
Thank you, Kellyanne. It has been it's been, I mean, it was just a pleasure to meet you, first of all, and have our conversation on my channel. And now I'm excited that, I'm on your channel. So thank you for inviting me and having me on here. I really appreciate you. And I look forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I gave my little intro of you, but is there anything I missed or anything that you want to note for people before we get into our chat?
No, you really pretty much nailed what my channel is, who I am. And I think you did a great job. Thank you. Oh my goodness. So I came late to the spiritual community as active as I am now. It didn't start until about 8 years ago. And it started because after my divorce, I sold my house 2 years after the divorce. And I was like, the heck with this place, this state. I lived in Ohio at that time. I said, there's nothing here for me anymore. I feel like I'm on a treadmill going nowhere in life. And I moved to Texas with my cousins are down there. I loved Texas. I loved visiting. So I moved down to Texas, and 11 days later, I get on a app and I meet my now husband. So 11 days later, he lives in Pittsburgh at the neighboring state of Ohio. And he would have been like a 2.5-hour drive. And now we were, lots of hours drive and a flight away. So we did long distance for the longest time, but he's the one that gave me my first statue. He gave me my Freya statue. And he's the one that saw me and knew who I was before I even really accepted who I was. So he's the one that really woke me up into my spiritual community, into my path now. And I have him to thank for that. But I'm also work a lot with past lives. And he did this multiple times in a past life of mine. So we were together. We were married previously, I think about 3 more times. And then those other times, he also was the one that encouraged my growth in spirituality. And so here we are now, I'm married. It's going to be 5 years. We got married in Salem, Massachusetts, 5 years ago, the week of Halloween. And so I'm as woo-woo as I get right now because of huge thanks to my husband. But, before this, I'm a mom. I have 4 boys, 1 in spirit. And I'm in college. So I do all of that stuff. And I finally came out to my family, and they're all very supportive. They come on my lives. They're all chatting. They're all like, Celina, can you do a reading for me? Celina, I need help with this. Celina, can you make me an oil? Or so I have like the best family ever who 100% see me and support me and really just embrace who I am.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so where did you start? Where did this come from?
So for me, it was just the spirituality part. That was first. Tarot came after. I've got, when I first got my first tarot deck, it was like 6 years ago. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if I want this because I already have my intuition. I already was able to communicate with my guides. And I already knew all of this before even diving into the tarot or Lenormand or oracle decks or anything like that. But for me, it was doing like rituals, like little like prosperity bowl. That's what it started with. And then, recognizing the moon cycles and, creating my own little oil for myself, just looking up recipes and what certain herbs meant. And now I have a huge apothecary. I make lots of oils on a regular basis because I have a community that a subscription box that I send them out to. So it started off really small and just stuff for myself, protection for my children, because they would say, Mom, I need a little bit more protection. I'm going to be traveling. What should I do? So I would do little protection stuff for them, or I'd send the angels to sit with them. And, they would say things like, I should have been in a really bad accident, Mom, but I wasn't. And I'm like, it's because your angels were there protecting you. And they're like, yes, Mom, I felt them. So to just the simple fact of asking the angels to help your children or going deeper into different deities and stuff like that has been part of my life. Growing up Catholic and Hispanic, we are very huge on our saints. So even though I'm not Catholic anymore, I still work with some of the saints. I still work with the angels. But I also work with other deities that are a little bit more like psychopomp and more darker aspects as well, because there's a balance. We need that balance. So I work with the lighter energies, but I also work with the darker energies.
Yeah. How do
Yeah.
you stay grounded in that balance? Because I think
Oh my
that's always the
goodness.
hard part.
It is very hard, but I live on 10 acres of property. So I have a tree that I always go and talk to, and I ground with him. I lay on my grass. I take my dog outside. We go for a walk. We forage together. We pick berries together, like blackberries have been the thing lately. I really, as much as I can, I try and get outside. I have a series on my channel. It's called Returning Home Rooted, and it's working on the root chakra. And I have been outside a lot more lately because the weather is nice, and it's part of grounding myself. It's part of working with the root chakra and, seeing how the seasons change, but they're not forced to change. The flowers bloom when they're ready to bloom. The trees grow when they're ready to grow, So it's really paying attention to what nature is doing and kind of mimicking that same thing. And that's how I try and stay grounded. Now doesn't happen all the time, but it is my go-to is being outside and connecting with nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I feel like you and I connect on is the idea that dark doesn't necessarily have to mean evil or scary or bad. Like we have daylight and we have nighttime, and we have both of those things for a reason. And so, I'm curious now. I'm like going into the next thing, but I just have to ask about this. So these like we're talking angels
Hmm.
and light deities and saints and all of that. Who are, I think, like the sort of like darker forces that
Yeah.
you connect to?
Yeah, so being Catholic and growing up with a Mexican heritage, my parents are from Mexico. I was born here in the States, but they still brought tradition and work ethic and all of that stuff with them. So learning that, growing up with that in my household and learning both languages, English and Spanish, one of the deities, the darker deities that I work with, but she's also light, is Santa Muerte. So it's holy death. And she looks like the Virgin Mary, but in a skeletal form. So you can see her. There's an orange pink one right there. She sits right there. She sits pretty much all over my altar. Also in my bedroom, I have multiple altars. The one behind me right here is my ancestral altar, which is why it has like the Day of the Dead stuff and the Catrinas, which is like that's a Catrina up there. But that is my ancestral altar. So that looks a little bit different than my working altar, one of my working altars. But she looks like the Virgin Mary, but in a death form. And then also Hecate. I work with Hecate as well, who is very much liminal, crossroads, threshold, the goddess of witchcraft. And then I just recently started working with Hermes. He actually appeared at my door on May Day. So it was the weirdest. Yeah. And then he sent a turtle like a week later to my property. So, which is also associated with him. So, yeah, it's been fun,
Yeah.
and just really embracing these deities that want to work with me, and even their lighter aspects, their darker aspects, and and seeing what they teach. Santa Muerte is a lot about death, holy death. And I do work with a lot of death aspects from being 11 years old and seeing my dad passing and knowing he was going to pass to, looking into the future and seeing stuff happening as well. So that's been the scary part lately, but it's just part of this growth, I guess, part of this journey of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I think, such for me, a different cultural lens to have that I think is so beautiful about Hispanic cultures and Mexican cultures is like the Day of the Dead and the honoring death and celebrating and really claiming that as something beautiful and just as
Yeah.
part of life that I didn't necessarily grow up with, but that when I see your altar behind you and I hear about that deity that you're working with, it's like that is so loving to me.
It is. Yeah. Because you want to be able to honor death, but at the same time, you realizing and understanding that death is not the end. I think people fear death because they think it's finality, it's the end, that's it. But no, there's reincarnation. You're going to see them again in a different form. You'll see them again. They're always there with you, like spirit wise. As much as if you do or don't believe in that, you'll think about them in moments that you need them. A song's going to come on and make you think of them. A butterfly is going to come and sit on you while you're outside, and you're going to think of a dearly departed. So for me, they're not gone. I have coffee with them every morning. I prepare my coffee. I make a cup of coffee for them. I say good morning to them. I talk to them like they're still here. I tell them about my day, what's going to happen, my celebrations, graduating college soon. I'm telling them my grades and how well I'm doing. And I'll write them a letter on their anniversary about what I did for the year. So to me, I still include them and I still feel like they're here. Like they've not, they've left us physically, but spiritually, they're still around you.
Those are such beautiful
Yeah.
rituals. I
Yeah.
love hearing about all of those things that you're doing. And I think it's funny because again, I often refer
Yeah.
back to my childhood, but it's like, wow, to me, the version of myself that I used to be would be
Yeah.
oh, that's so beautiful.
So
Okay.
this is their coffee mug. I have one for Santa Muerte as well. And then I pour them theirs first. And then I pour mine after. And we have a cup of coffee in the morning. So that's my way. Like, every time grandparents come over or you invite people over, you want to offer them a drink, you offer them something sweet to eat or whatever. So like on anniversaries, birthdays, I'll buy a cake and I'll split it with them as well. So, but this is my ancestors' coffee mug.
That is
Yeah.
so beautiful. Yeah, a friend of mine whose father and brother passed in a short while, she
Hmm.
always at holidays sets a place at the table for
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so beautiful. But doing that something on a daily basis, again, I think it's like culturally in the US, we tend to, maybe we have these little like private moments where like, okay, I'll think about someone who's gone, or like grief is such a heavy thing. But the
Hmm.
way that you are processing that grief or using that grief is just like making it a part of your daily life, not as a darkness, but as like they're still here, they can still hear me, or what, and whether or not you believe in reincarnation or heaven or whatever it is, like thinking about these people that we have loved still wanting the best for us.
Yeah. And to me, that's even when I travel, I'm on vacation. And if I don't, I mean, I can't obviously travel with my altar. I travel with a small, very small, minimal altar for, for the reason of packing or whatever. But I still make myself, I make myself a cup of coffee, and I'll make an extra one. And I say, this is for you. So to still, because I know they're with me, I know they didn't just stay at home waiting for me to come home, so I want to still include them even while I'm on vacation.
So you mentioned your father passing when you were young,
Mhm.
and you said you knew that was happening.
Yes.
Was Can you tell me, would you be comfortable sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. I've shared this multiple times, and because I'm so open now with my spirituality with my family, my brother said, Celina, the same thing happened to me. I saw the same thing, and I woke up at the same hour that he passed. We both did. We both woke up at the same hour that he passed, knew that he was gone. But the moment he was leaving the house, my dad was a police officer. So the moment he was leaving the house, I knew he wasn't going to come back. I knew that was the last time I was going to see him. And rewind to like a month prior, I started having dreams of his passing. But my brother also told me recently that he was also having dreams of his passing. So him and I were very much, he's the one that's going to be retiring from the military that I was just telling you about. And we're 2 years and 2 months apart. He's older. So with all of that, we both had the same visions, we both had the same knowings, we both woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was just a knowing. And I was so young, I didn't know who to talk to about this, I didn't know who to approach about this. I really just kept it to myself, as well as the stuff that I did see, or I could hear, or I could smell, or I could taste, because I had nobody to. I thought everybody could do this. So I didn't think it was anything special.
Wow. Okay, so you didn't think it was anything special, but did you accept it about yourself, or did you feel like there was something wrong?
I thought it was something wrong because for me as a child, I thought I could prevent it. Like tell my dad, no, don't go, stay home. But I couldn't. For the longest time, I felt like I should have done something about it, you know? But being 11 years old, you don't know how to, if what you're dreaming about or seeing is really true or not true. So you didn't know what was, like I had nobody to talk to about this. My mom, she's spiritual, but not in that aspect. She's more of Catholic with the saints and the church and that part. What I was seeing and feeling was very hard to talk to her about it. Plus, she just lost her husband. I'm one of 9 kids, so there was 9 kids that she had to raise on her own. Yeah. So she was in her own world, trying to process her own grief and what she was going to do and how she was going to support this family. So I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. So I just kept it internally and, in a way, blocked it out. And for the longest time, I blocked it out until meeting my husband. So I did suppress it for the longest time, my abilities, because I was afraid of them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting when you said like 8 years ago, because I believe the same timeline for myself of kind of
Nice.
rediscovering. So I wonder
Mhm.
what was happening
8
8 years
years
ago.
ago,
Yeah.
maybe a lot of people were waking up. I don't know, a lot of ascension in their own way. I don't know.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
similarly, another thing that you and I share is that in part being brought about by our husbands is that
Oh,
I think for me too, it took somebody else believing in me, somebody else saying, I see this in you. You have a gift or gifts. You are like, those are real. That's something to open up and to share. And so what a, what a
how
wonderful
funny.
to have.
Yeah. Because he's the reason I'm on YouTube as well. I just I had casually mentioned like 4 months prior, I think I might want to start a YouTube channel because I want to do like a virtual grimoire of my work, of what I'm doing. Well, lo and behold, like 2 months later, it was my birthday, and I get a GoPro and I get some like other equipment. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to do this because he just invested all this money on this equipment for me. So
Wow. That's
that's,
incredible.
so he's the one that also kind of pushed me to come on YouTube as well.
Yeah. What a gift to like
Yeah.
be seen by that
Yeah.
in that way by somebody
Yeah. Yeah.
and to
And
have.
he's like my biggest supporter, my biggest fan. And, when I get, feedback from subscribers, like my ritual oil subscribers, and I tell him about it. And he's like, Celina, you're really helping people. You really are doing something to help these people. He's like, I'm very proud of you. So it's nice to be seen.
Yeah, it is. I know. I feel like mine does the same. Shout out to the support and love of a partner who really sees you and gets you. That's so lovely. Okay, so not to take too hard of a left, and I guess this isn't too hard of a left because it is talking about the things. I want to know more basically about the things that you do and the versions of yourself that you've been all combined into one. And I know that you are working on something very special and that you have created your own oracle deck that is not out yet, but that you have created it. So
Yes,
tell me all about that because I saw it, I saw the topic and I was like, lean in.
I
What is
know.
this thing?
Yes, I am excited about this project. It has been about 7 years in the making. I love photography. I'm a horrible artist. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. But photography, I love photography. And my husband saw that in me as well. So he bought me a really nice Canon printer or whatever it is, a nice pricey camera that records video and all that fun stuff in it. But I love photography. I live in Pennsylvania. So I'm about 4 hours away from Gettysburg, which we all know what Gettysburg is, what happened in Gettysburg. And every time I go to Gettysburg, it's very personal for me. It's very intense for me. Personal as well because my husband's family fought for Pennsylvania. Their name is on the Pennsylvania Monument, my mother-in-law's family. So we can trace back all the way to Gettysburg, even prior to that. My husband can. So there is that connection, but I also had a past life connection in Gettysburg. My first moment going into Gettysburg, literally crossing into the line of Gettysburg, I was in unconsolable tears sitting in the back seat with my mother-in-law. My husband's in the front. My father-in-law is next to him. He's driving. He just looks back at the rearview mirror and sees me crying. And he's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm just incredibly sad here. I'm just very sad. I'm picking up on a lot of the souls that are left here, how sad they are. They couldn't say goodbye to their families, and that's what I just kept feeling is they wanted to say goodbye to their families. A lot of them could not. There was no, that was it. So as my time in Gettysburg went on, I always took pictures every time we went. We go like 4 times a year. And my last time, it was last year, I went again and it was around my birthday. And I just kept feeling the need to create an oracle deck with the images. I kept feeling like they were saying, they wanted to have a voice. They wanted to be remembered. They wanted to be heard again. And that is where this deck is coming from. So I have created a 54 card oracle deck with all of my own images and a 36-page guidebook to go with it. I'm creating a ritual oil as well. I'm taking the decks. I purchased 150 decks here in Pennsylvania. The place that's printing it is about an hour and a half away from Gettysburg. And it's a family owned business that has been around since the 40s. But I'm taking all 150 decks back to Gettysburg and I am introducing the deck to Gettysburg to the souls left behind. I'm doing a ritual with them. I'm going to hand consecrate each single deck, creating my own ritual oil to go with it. And really and I'm going to do it in 10 different spots. So I'm using 15 cards in one spot, 15 decks in one spot, 15 decks in a different spot. And then I'm going to document my process as well as take a picture for each one of those 15 decks because they're going to only have one area and just really show the souls there what I created for them and really talk about the deck, go through the ritual and show every card and just sit there and be in that moment with them. So Yes, that's what I'm working on. So
Wow.
my deck is at the printer as we speak. I should be getting my prototype next week sometime, and I'm excited to get all 150 decks. This company has been amazing to work with. Even like the owner of the company on July 3rd emailed me and said, "We're really excited to create this for you."
That's so cool.
So yeah,
And just like what sort of divine inspiration and
yeah.
timing and all of that
So
coming
let me
together.
tell you the timing.
Okay.
I went back in February and we took more images, and I started working on them as soon as I got home. I was like, okay, I'm going to work on them all weekend long, and I'm going to start working on these images. I got all the images I needed. I wasn't liking the borders. I wasn't liking the words, like nothing. I wasn't liking the vignette around it. I wasn't liking the way they looked. They didn't feel right to me. So I just set it down. This was at the end of February. It wasn't until the day before Memorial Day that I get the Celina, are you going to start working on our cards? So I pulled out my laptop, start going through the images, and they're like, start with the border. So I went and looked for borders that I liked and found the border. I created 74 cards in 4 hours. It was just flowing. Like it was just the energy. There was zero blocks, like no artistic blocks in the way. Everything was flowing bam, 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 the way I liked it. Everything, it was good. And then I was looking at different printing places, and there was some overseas, which are a lot cheaper. And I'm like, no, for the integrity of the deck, for the integrity of the soldiers, it has to be US. So there was this place in Florida I was looking at. And then I was like, I was okay with them. But then my friend lives about down the street from this printing company. And she's like, Celina, how about this printing place over here? I don't know if they do decks, but it's not bad to reach out. So I reached out to them. We were talking back and forth. And then I paid my full balance, my full amount on the second day of Gettysburg Battle on July 2nd.
Wow. I mean, I have
That
no words.
so
I'm
there's so
speechless.
many
That's
things
just
that
so
were just
incredible.
like Memorial Day, finish
Yeah.
that. July 2nd, which is the halfway through the battle in Gettysburg, is when I paid for it. Like I'm in tears when I'm like finishing up the last of the images. And then I'm in tears again, realizing that I'm paying on July 2nd, So it was just, everything was just lining up perfectly. And I couldn't have even like in a million years line this up the same way. Like it's just was no way I could have done that. And we're on the America's 250th anniversary. So all of this stuff was just so synchronistic. And it was like, Celina, this is the right thing to do. This is the right time to do it. Yeah. So it was just weird. Like all of that was so weird. And the way it just lined up. And I was wearing the shirt I was wearing, which I didn't even realize until the next day, was a Fort Sumter shirt from Charleston. And that's where the first day's battle started. I didn't real, but like I had gone there 3 years ago with my best friend for my birthday, and we went to go see Fort Sumter, and we went to Charleston and all the cemeteries and the churches and all that stuff there. And I didn't even realize I was wearing until the next day that I was wearing a Fort Sumter shirt, which is the first day's battle that happened, that started the Civil War.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everything just fell into place.
Yeah. So it was just it's so synchronistic, and it was just perfect. And then the fact that I made 74 cards. So then that pushed me into, my friends were, why don't you do an expansion pack after this one? So I'm going to be doing another expansion pack. I'll add like another 24 cards that they can purchase like 6 months after this deck comes out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like this is that's perfect for how an oracle deck should come together, because at least, so I want to know how you use them, because how I use oracle decks is every full moon and new moon, I have two decks that are specific for, well, my new moon deck is one that I use every new moon. That one doesn't change. But my full moon deck, I'll pick from the rest of the decks I have and just kind of whichever one speaks to me. But I choose a card for the moon of, with the full moon, what am I releasing? With the new moon, what do I want
Mm-hmm.
to call in? And then sometimes I'll pull a card when I need direction or inspiration, or just like I'm having a I'm meditating and I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to kind of know what I
Yeah.
should think about today. Just
Yeah.
I'll do it in all these different things. But so for you, what role do oracle decks play in your life?
Okay, so I review a lot of decks. And I'm so lucky that Llewellyn, Rockpool, US Games, Red Wheel Wiser books, they all send me decks and books for review. I'm very fortunate for that. So because of that, I have collected a huge amount of decks and books in my family. I mean in my house, including your book, which I specifically asked for. I was like, I need that book. I love the way what's on there. I need to talk to her. Can we do an interview? Like I'm the one that was like pushing my rep, who then pushed me into your rep because we have different reps. And so that was great. But the fact that I get so many decks, and I have like 6 decks now that I have to review. But the way I use them, I don't, for someone who does reviews for tarot and oracle decks, I actually don't pull every single day. I know some people journal and pull every day. I don't feel the need to do that. I pull them when I'm like you, I'm in the middle of meditation. And then afterwards, I feel like there's something else I need to do. I'll start pulling. Or if I hear my dad and he's around me a lot and I know he has more things to say. I was reading a book that was sent to me by Llewellyn called Crystal's Divination. And there is a spread in there that I've been wanting to do. And it's about an ancestor spread. So I went ahead and pulled that ancestor spread because I knew he was very chatty with me. And that spread was just mind blowing. So I don't pull it all the time. It's only when I get that nudge to do so. And I have a lot of oracle decks, I have a lot of tarot decks. And people are like, Celina, how do you know which deck to use? I don't. It's just the same thing. Whichever one I feel called to using, that's the one I'm grabbing. I don't do seasonal decks because I feel like even during the winter time, I might feel the need to pull out a deck that's very summery. I don't really stick with seasonal decks. Now, I will use them seasonally more throughout that season, like Halloween and Christmas time and stuff like that. I will do that. But there's times where I'll pull the complete opposite because there's a message in there that I need to hear. And it's always what I need to hear. It's always there. So yeah, I do them as I feel the nudge to do it. And, I don't do it every day. I do them during the dark moon and the full moon as well. So that's something I do as well. But yeah, it's just whenever I feel called to pull them. And I do meditate as well. I meditate daily. So if there's something in meditation that is asking me to pull oracle or pull tarot or Lenormand, then that's when I pull it. Lenormand, it's mainly more when I need like a really straight, definitive answer. That's a different type of divination system, but it's pretty accurate. It's pretty like it's it's almost like brutally honest. So if I need a brutally honest reading, I'll pull out, it's a French system. It's called Lenormand because that's brutally honest. That's pretty flipping accurate. So, but yeah, that's how I pull my oracle or my tarot or Lenormand.
Cool. I had not heard of Lenormand before. I'll have to
hmm
look that up and I'll make sure to like put that in the notes so other
Yeah,
people can
it's
find
only
it too.
36 cards, but it's a beautiful system. And there is a learner deck that I like from US Games that I recommend for other people that are learning and aren't too familiar with it. But it's called Simplicity Lenormand, and that's really good. And it's with US Games. So yeah.
Okay, so question about the actual pulling of the card thing, because
Yes.
some people like to, with an oracle or tarot deck, they like to shuffle or they have a certain way
hmm
that they do things. Sometimes, and I would love your take on this. So often I will shuffle or kind of just rearrange the cards and then I lay them out in a line flat.
hmm
I'll just run my hand over and pull a card. But sometimes I get this thing where I'm like, when do I know to stop shuffling? When do I know, is this really the right card? And I get a little bit in my head about that. I'm curious if you have, if you have any thoughts. Help me work through this, Celina.
Do the same thing actually. So depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes if they fan out nicely, I will fan them out and I'll put my hand over it when I'm doing past life readings for people. I usually do the feeling to see like where, just how it gives you a different vibe in your fingertips. And so I'll do that as well. But when I'm shuffling, when I shuffle and then I start overhand shuffling, so they go over my hand and they just go that way, like Here I have a mini deck right here that I was using because I'm doing like candle magic right now as well. But here's my little mini deck. It's my Santa Muerte deck, of course. So here's my deck. And then if I'm doing like this, I'm a pretty fast shuffler and I wait for flyers. I wait for cards to fly out. So that for me, or something that's going to flip over, like this one just flipped over. So I got the Justice card. So people look at it and they're like, oh, justice, that's probably tough. But it's like, no, justice can also be, what about yourself are you not being just on? What it is about yourself that that you're really suppressing, that you're really not letting fully come out? Are you doing your ancestors justice by the work that you're doing? So that can be what justice also means. So there's a lot of different meanings, but like this one flipped over, the Empress. So it's another one. This one, the Empress, she's about nurturing and she's about growth and fertility. And so this is another major card that came out. And she's actually been stalking me lately. So I've been seeing her a lot, and I can see why I'm seeing her a lot because I am in the midst of creating a lot of stuff. So creating my oracle deck, creating my ritual oils, yesterday, someone gave me feedback on the ritual oil, what happened in meditation after they used my oil. So yeah, so that's where I can see where the Empress card is coming into play for me.
Yeah. The Empress card has special meaning for me now because when I was going through my last IVF to where I ended up getting pregnant with my son, after we did the frozen embryo transfer, there was a new moon or no, it must have been the full moon. And my husband was like, are you sure you want to pull a card? Because sometimes like this could make you feel one way or the other about the outcome. And you have
Yeah,
this 2-week waiting period that is like
yeah,
living hell. It's just terrible.
yeah,
But I was like, no, I want to do this. And so I went up and I, you know, got this tarot deck that I have and I pulled the card and I got the Empress card.
yep,
And I was like, okay. And then when I looked up the meaning and
yeah.
fertility was
Because
in
she's
there.
pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, she's pregnant in the card. I mean, not in this card. You can't really see her pregnant in this, but she is pregnant. The stuff around her is blooming. It's about the fertility. It's very much that goddess type of energy. And it's a beautiful card to pull if you are expecting or waiting to be, you
Yeah.
know, expecting. So, yeah.
And so I just knew, like, I was like, okay, even if this isn't like this, this embryo takes root, like there is fertility in my life. But
Hmm.
I had a feeling that that was the message I was supposed to get. So I
Beautiful.
love that you also
I
pulled that
just
card
pulled
in
the
this moment.
Empress. Yeah. And she's been stalking me a lot. So, but it's because I've been extremely busy with creating. And that's about creating, it's a card of creation. And that's exactly what I've been, even though I can't physically birth a child anymore. My youngest is 22. So that's okay. But I can birth and create other things with my own hands, and which is what I've been doing. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in all types of creation. And it's so on the how we use or like what oracle decks are and tarot decks are is like sometimes I will pull a card with my clients and my clients are like my therapy clients are varying woo background interest in that stuff. And I say like just be curious about it. Like does this have meaning for you? Is this interesting? Like is there some message or something you can connect to? And if not or if it doesn't resonate or it doesn't land, that's okay.
Yeah. Or
Maybe
maybe it
it'll
might next week.
yes. Yeah.
Or might in a couple weeks,
Yep.
but think about the message and don't try and make it fit the situation. Like let them know, don't make it fit, don't make it find a meaning or purpose right now and say, yes, it resonates. But think about it and really just put it in the back of your mind. And as you go out through your day, it's it's going to make itself known again. That whatever message was in that card is going to be made known again sometime in the future. So just pay attention to your thoughts, to your inner monologue, because it's going to come up.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like a through line here in our conversation is actually less of what I was thinking it was going to be. And I feel like more there's this connection to the messages, like from your
Hmm.
ancestors, from within yourself, from oracle decks, and just like paying attention to the messages that are out there that are in your periphery and just what does this mean for me? What does this
Yeah.
have for me?
Yeah. And really, really, not only just the paying attention part, but listening to whatever messages are coming, being open to receiving messages, and to realize that if you're getting a message that doesn't even seem like it's your own thought, really pay attention to those, especially. Like you're like, oh, why would I even think that? Because it's coming from a higher source, your higher self. It's coming from a guide. It's coming from an ancestor. It's coming from some type of spiritual being around you or your own higher self. But really listen to those types of messages and don't second guess them. It's very simple. It could be even when you're driving somewhere and it's something in you tells you, take this route instead. And then you come to realize there was a bad accident on that route or there was a delay in that route and you didn't even know, but it was your intuition telling you, how about you do this route today instead? Or maybe go ahead and stop for a drink or stop for some food because when you stopped and then you realize, oh, there was an accident up there and you're trying to it's trying to tell you to go in a different route if you use a GPS on your car. That's your intuition. You've always had it. It's always been there, but it's really just learning to listen to it a little bit more and deeper, but also really quieting your mind enough, like through meditation, to be able to get those messages.
Yeah. And I feel like it's this thing that builds on itself where especially when, you've gone through stuff like you went through in your childhood and that, I went through different things, but that caused us to question ourselves and question our belief in our intuition. And when you start following that lead, and it's just like, the mossy rock rolling down the hill saying that they say or whatever is
Yeah.
like it just builds to where you start trusting and believing yourself more and more over time. And
Yeah. You do. And that's what happens when you're reading the oracle cards and tarot cards. The more you start trusting yourself and the messages you're getting. Sometimes when I read for somebody and it's tarot or oracle, whatever, it has absolutely nothing to do with the regular system, like what the empress means, what the emperor means, what the hierophant means, like anything like that. It has nothing to do with that, but the images. So I'm starting to read the images. And this is one I do often because my mom, she's been, widowed for the longest time and she started seeing someone. And I didn't know this until I was reading this, spread I did for her. And I'm like, are you talking to someone? And she just starts giggling. And I'm like, and it was like the king of something. It was the biblical tarot. I pulled out the biblical tarot for my mom and it was a king of something, but it was a man and a woman and they were talking. I'm like, are you talking to someone? And she just starts giggling. So I'm pulling more cards and it looks like she was in a starting to be in a relationship with somebody. But then I saw a card with angels on it. And I'm like, is his name Angel? Oh my God, Celina, how did you know that? I was like, I'm just reading the cards, but I got an inner knowing to say the name out loud. I'm like, is his name Angel? And she like flipped out. So if
wow.
I would have read that spread normally, like it was in the regular Rider Waite Smith system, it would have been a normal reading, just okay reading. But the fact that I used my intuition, I listened to my guides and what they were telling me about my mom's situation. I gave her the reading that really blew her mind and was even more accurate than what it would have been in the reading itself. But, the final card was the angels were walking away from her. And I'm like, no, mom, this is not the relationship for you. 2 weeks later, she calls me back. She's like, you're right, Celina. This wasn't the relationship for me. The man walked away. I walked away. But the angels were walking away from this person. It was the moon card. And the moon card would have not even been about, it's about hidden illusions and stuff like that. But the fact that I saw them walking away, I was like, no, mom, this is not going to happen. This is not good for you. And then like 2 weeks later, she calls me and she's like, you're right.
That's amazing. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you listening to your intuition really, even if if someone's picking up a deck and they're looking at it and not even reading the guidebook, what does that card mean to you? What does it make you feel? What is your first thought on it? What is your first intuition on it? Go with that. Journal on one card and then just write down what it's telling you, what it's making you feel. And that's how you start to learn tarot and then eventually look at the meanings in the book. But to me, this reading was more to my mom because it was a lot more accurate than if I would have just been, a regular tarot reader.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important piece is like looking at the card yourself and seeing or picking out what sticks out for you because
Yeah.
there's so
What
much more than
message?
just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What message is it's giving you? Like really listen and really ground yourself before, obviously do a lot of stuff, but listen to what it is that your intuition is telling you about that card. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be right. So always blurt out whatever it is you're thinking, whatever it is that's coming to mind. I usually do now, and I trust my intuition. So I start blurting out. I'm like, I don't know about this, but this is what I'm getting. And they're like, wow, Celina, how did you know that? I did that for my brother. I was pulling Lenormand and he asked about his move. And I was like, I kept going back to there's a card on there. It's about a ring and it's about commitment and relationship that he's already married. And I'm like, I talked about commitment and relationship with my sister-in-law, but then something kept telling me to go back to that card. And I went back and I'm like, are you going to renew your vows with my sister-in-law? And he goes, oh my God, we were just talking about this last week. How did you know this? And I'm like, I'm just reading the cards. I'm just reading the cards, but I'm also listening to my intuition. So they're going to renew their vows again.
Oh, that's so
But I felt
beautiful.
like my guides kept telling me to go
Yeah.
back to the card. And I'm like, why am I going back to this card? I've already read it. And I went back to it and I'm looking at it again. And, the man is proposing to the girl. He's on his knee. And I'm like, are you going to propose to my sister-in-law again? So he's like, yeah, we were just talking about this last week after retirement. And, but that's the Lenormand system as well. It's very, very accurate as well. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. So when is your deck meeting the world? When will it be out?
So the week of September 21st, I will go back to Gettysburg. I will be out there for 4 days, I think. No, 5 days. Once those 5 days is complete, between going through all the battlefields that I wanted, all parts of the battlefield and consecrating all the decks, and then I will bring them back home and then I'll start shipping out the decks. So I will put out a pre-order in mid-August on my Ko-fi shop. And that's going to be I think like August 15th is what I'm planning. I'm going to let my members on there first be able to pre-order. And then a couple, like 3 days after them, I'll put it open for everybody else to order. But yeah, so it should be shipping out like the first week of October.
Amazing.
Yeah. So only 150 decks because, creating here in the US is a lot more expensive, but I went ahead and just paid the price because it was the right thing to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think it will pay off. People, if that interests you, I will link to that. I will link to your Ko-fi shop. I will link to your YouTube channel. Check out Celina. Anything else that you want to share or hit on today?
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit on everything.
Yeah, we kind of covered all the bases.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This was it's great to be on the opposite side of the chair.
Yeah, isn't it fun to kind of turn the
I know.
tables? I like to
I know. I'm like, oh yes, that's fine. Let's do an interview because it's, usually I'm the one interviewing, so it's different, but it's nice to be on the other side of the chair.
Yeah, it is.
So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad to get to know you a little bit better and
Thank you.
introduce all of my people to you and the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here and for walking this path with me. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love it if you'd take a moment to rate, review, or share it with someone who might need it too. To keep the conversation going, come say hi on Instagram at Embrace the Dark and the Light. And if you're looking for more support on your healing journey, you can find free resources, meditations, and so much more at embracethedarkandthelight.com. Until next time, may you honor the dark, trust the light, and keep coming home to yourself.